the question that I want to know is a successful guy like you that has all these opportunities, but I also know you take time out of that to teach guys like me, because I am in one of your mastermind classes along with other students. I want to know why.
Yeah. So someone did it for me. 2007, someone did that for me, and I paid them for their time, for their knowledge, for their advice. And it took me from literally struggling for 11 months trying to do my first real estate deal to paying this person that took time out of their schedule to teach me. And I ended up getting a deal done in 3 months.
I love multifamily. I love real estate investment. Team is very important.
Things will sometimes go wrong on real estate deals. It's just the nature of the industry.
We've considered investments together. We work with many of the same people.
And I'm forming, partnerships with people on all different levels, and it's a win-win-win for everybody that way.
Step by step, I planned out what I was going to do. I planned on going sailing, so I knew what I needed to accomplish, and I started that plan. Actually, in fact, I wrote a book, and it's called Dreams, Goals, and Adventure.
Aloha, and welcome to Deal or No Deal, Multifamily Real Estate Investing Podcast with your host, Michael Ditton. Our mission and vision for this podcast is to share the knowledge and stories of others to inspire and motivate those not only in their pursuit for success in real estate investing, but in their overall journey in a life adventure, and to help create abundance on every level of their life. This podcast is sponsored by Helios Capital Investments, shedding light on multifamily real estate investing. Welcome, everybody, and we're here for another episode of Deal or No Deal, Multifamily Real Estate Investing, and we want to thank you for coming back. Today, my guest is not only a good, close personal friend of mine, but he's one of my coaches. He's one of my mentors, Nate Armstrong, and I tell you, if you haven't heard of Nate out there, you will today. But Nate is just one of those incredible human beings, true to the heart. He's a family guy. He's driven his business to, one of the fastest growing companies, marked by Inc. 500. He's coached hundreds and hundreds, I think 800 plus students across the United States and in Canada. Nate is an animal when it comes to real estate stuff. Not only is he helping people with it, but he's done over 1,100 deals himself. Through all the lessons that he's learned and shared with everybody else, he's been picked up on NBC and ABC and been featured on those. And a lot of the big guys out there like LeGrand, Dean Graziosi, Mike Wolf, and more that I haven't mentioned have actually had Nate come on and speak for them. So Nate is just one of those powerhouses. He is truly a family man. I'm glad to be part of his family. He definitely is a man of God, and he is also just one of the most well-rounded, great guys that I know. And we want to thank Nate for joining us today. So thank you very much, Nate, for coming on.
Michael, I think I'm blushing back here. Thanks for the warm intro, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Well, Nate, I'm gonna not go. I put a couple of accolades there, but I'm not going to go into your story because nobody tells a story better than themselves. So, Nate, how did you get from? I know your past and your history a bit. I know a couple of hurdles that you've overcome, and I know where you're at today. And let me tell you, you've moved some mountains. And I want you to share a snapshot of who Nate is, where he came from, and how he got where he's at.
Yeah. It's funny when you're talking about moving mountains. I had a mountain planted in front of me even today, and they always happen in our life, no matter what. It's tax time, depending on, when everyone's listening to this, but it's tax time. And I got a mountain of a tax bill, like bigger than I've ever seen in my life. And I called the CPA and I'm like, is this even possible? What? And then he explained to me that there's a whole bunch of things that were missed and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, oh, I have a heart attack here. But anyways, mountains come up. So I had a pretty big mountain put in my path, not just today, but like in real estate in general, they're going to happen. So for me, I'm from Duluth, Minnesota. My dad was a mechanic. My mom did home daycare, like plain Jane. We weren't playing cash flow and reading Robert Kiyosaki, Rich Dad, Poor Dad in my household growing up. I remember when I figured out how much my dad had bought our house for, because I figured out how to search stuff and find stuff. My dad was so tight-lipped with it. He's like, how did you find that? you're not supposed to know that. And he got mad at me. And I'm like, Dad, I just want to know, like, I want to know how this stuff works. But anyways, I go off to college, blessed opportunity. I got to go to a really good school in Minnesota. And I got to go with like my friends' parents on weekends and all that kind of stuff. And some of my friends, their parents were running businesses. Some of them were buying real estate. And one of my friends, his dad had this mechanic enterprise. And I got to like start to learn and see, and like they would talk openly about finances. It felt like the wealthier people were, the more open they were. And I just remember that seed getting planted. And then I went off to college and started kind of doing what mom and dad told me to do, go to school, get a good job. And then I kept thinking, what about my friends' parents? What about them? And I just said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And I jumped into real estate, and I won't bore you with all the details, but that's how I got in. I just made a decision. I'm going to do what these other people were doing that had success. And I started doing it. And I fell flat on my face.
Been there.
Yeah. And then you get back up, and then you just go and you go. And then you do come to this place of harmony where, you know, it's kind of like your position that whatever you feel like you're supposed to go after, there's never going to be an end to it. I've got a client of mine. He's got over 4,000 apartment units right now, 4,000. And he was asked by his brother-in-law at a conversation I got to overhear. He was asked by him, hey, when is enough? And then he said, oh, I got to get another 4,000 before I'm dead. I'm going to get 4,000 more. This guy lives in a 10,000 square foot house in the mountains. He's got property all over the world. Like, he's loaded. And the brother-in-law, his name's Ron. Ron looks at him and says, I have one thing that you'll never have. And he said, what's that? And Ron said, I have enough. Now, I've been working with Ron because I've been selling him houses. I've worked on syndications with him. Like, we've done a lot of deals together. We've done at least 60, maybe 61 houses together, plus some syndications on some larger stuff together. So like, Ron and I have both done really well. But for what he told to his brother-in-law, like, the sky's the limit. You could keep going and going and going. My wife and I, we are so blessed. We finally got to go live in the house that we want. We're in Florida. We're right next to the water. Like, we got the things that we really want. And now our focus has shifted a little bit. We've moved on to some nonprofits. We officially launched Home Invest Kids. We're doing some stuff that I've wanted to do all of my life. We're still doing real estate, mind you, but we're doing things that are more mission driven. So like, when I wake up in the morning, I know why I'm doing it. I feel passionate about it. I get lit up. So yeah, that's a long backstory, but that's who you got now.
No, I love it. And you and I kind of on the same path as far as mindset and goals and everything else. And I love that. The funny thing is, you actually said tax bill, and yes, this recording is right around tax time. I remember in 1997, when I first got into real estate, my first real tax bill after acquiring property and everything else. The numbers were correct, but they were astronomical based on everything else I'd experienced in life. And I'd been doing pretty good in life, but it was, I was a sales rep and it was still W-2 and everything else. And I was paying my fair share. But my first year in real estate, I went back to my CPA and attorney and I said, I don't know what's wrong here. What's wrong? And he says, Michael, I remember this words. He said, Michael, if you didn't earn it, you wouldn't have to spend it and pay for it. And I said, if I didn't earn it, I wouldn't have to pay it. Okay, never mind. So, but I knew he was doing the best he could for me. And he has for over 2 decades now. In fact, he's still the same CPA. So I digress. Anyhow, thank you very much for sharing a bit of your story. And I know that it doesn't surprise me that you have Home Invest Kids now. It doesn't surprise me that you're going out and you're doing more to help other people, because that's just who you are. The question that I want to know is, a successful guy like you that has all these opportunities, that's super busy doing, 1,100 plus units, doing deals with your brother. I know that you're now working with investors in a different way as well. You're always leveling up. You're always taking it to the next level. But I also know you take time out of that to teach guys like me, because I am in one of your mastermind classes along with other students. Plus you have another division of it as well, Social Media Blueprint. And you're taking time to share what you have up here with all these other people. And quite honestly, I want to know why.
Yeah. So someone did it for me.
Nice.
Someone did it for me. 2007, someone did that for me. And I paid them for their time, for their knowledge, for their advice. And it took me from literally struggling for 11 months trying to do my first real estate deal to paying this person that took time out of their schedule to teach me. And I ended up getting a deal done in 3 months. So at 11 months to 3 months, time compressed. And I remember that very clearly. And I thought to myself then, if I ever get the opportunity to do it for other people, I'm going to do it. So that's first and foremost. Second thing is that this is kind of my, I don't want to go like all biblical and stuff on you, but it's a little bit like my style of ministry, so to speak. Okay. So like, I want to do good in the world. I want to touch people. I know I only have so many hours in the day. I can't do everything that I want to do by myself, but I'll tell you what, some of the people's lives that I've been able to touch are doing right now. I got John Hubach. He's up in the Northwest region of Washington State. He's running a nonprofit taking homeless vets off the street right now. He's using his real estate deals to fund that nonprofit. I got Lucinda Corner. She's out in Colorado right now. She's also doing very similar with her nonprofit right now, taking care of families and mothers that are displaced and all kinds of good that are coming out of it. We were able to make a pretty good sizable contribution over to Operation Underground Railroad to save children who are being sex trafficked right now. And this is the fuel for all this is the real estate deals. It's like the currency that we were able to learn how to trade back and forth is real estate. This is really a people business at the end of the day, but we're trading real estate. It's generating money, and that money goes to fund good in the world. And so when I'm able to work with students, that's kind of like my deep ministry, so to speak, inside. It's what I want to do. It's what I feel called to do. It's what I get excited about each morning.
Well, that's cool. And again, we run in the same circle, so this doesn't surprise me. In fact, I had the pleasure of interviewing Carolyn Gallardo here a couple of weeks ago, and Carolyn is on the same mission. What she's doing is a little bit differently, but it's the same purpose. She's out there to do better in the world and leave a legacy behind that is going to impact the future generations. And she's using real estate investment as her vehicle that allows her to do that. And of course, I'm kind of on the same mission with myself. And when we chatted last October, we talked about that compression. In fact, I came to you with a 5-year plan and you said, why don't we do it in 2 to 3? So I do appreciate the opportunity to work with you and use that mindset, because I know everything is doable if you have the right mindset and you want to go out and make that happen. So thank you for doing that for me and for so many other people.
One of our really good, he's been done marketing for us for years. Really good dude. His dad passed away recently. And his dad was 69 years old, so fairly young guy. And I remember he came to me, my marketing guy, and he explained, he said, Nate, what I thought I had at least a decade left with my dad, at least a decade. My dad was a pastor. He took care of people. He was doing good in the world. I thought I could spend the next 10 years with him. But what I thought was a decade turned into, when I got the call about him going to the hospital, it turned into 72 hours. And I got 72 hours with my dad at his bedside. And he said, the one thing that my dad taught me in that 72 hours is that life is like a snap of a finger. You just got to go out and make the most of it. You absolutely do. So guys like you're doing this show right here to help people. Like, I know we're going to drop some gold for people for real estate investing on this while we're together. And you're doing this to help people. If you can make that help, that ripple effect, so to speak, out into the world, like I know how many people you're going to touch too. Michael, your heart is like a big, huge chunk of gold inside. You just like to share it with people, and you're the kind of guy that you want to walk up and give a hug to every time. So I love that you're doing this too.
Thanks. Now you got me blushing. Fair game, huh? I appreciate that. And yeah, I do appreciate that. And yes, I love doing this as well. I mean, this is fun. This is not only am I doing it because I'm invested in real estate and real estate investing, but I'm doing it for others, not just investing, but for others to benefit from. So that's part of it. I want to kind of highlight a little bit on, I've got two kind of questions. One, since we're talking about, what you and I do in it and how it has this effect on our life, and we have this ripple effect, what would you actually say to somebody that maybe they're just getting in it, or maybe they've been in it for a while and they want to kind of do something a little differently, or maybe they've never been in it and they've been thinking about it? What would you say to that never in, a beginner, and or somebody that wants to make some changes and really level up, what would you say be good for them to do?
Ooh, well, number one, get as much education as possible. But number two, you got to jump in somewhere. You got to jump in. Why? Let's start with that bigger question. Why do you have to jump in? If you look at anyone that's maintained wealth from generation to generation, I can almost without a doubt prove to you that there's some form of real estate inside of that financial package that helped that person get there. Okay. If you look at the Vanderbilt family, one of the most successful early on in the founding days of America, the Vanderbilt family, there was a lot of real estate in there. But one thing that they did is they lost it. They lost the majority of it, 80% of it, within 49 years of senior Vanderbilt building the fortune. Okay. I'm going to compare that to the Rockefellers. The Rockefeller family has more than 10x'd the family fortune. It's still going up to this day by a long shot. What's the fundamental difference on this? Okay. The Rockefellers stayed engaged in investing all the way through. The Vanderbilts, after the senior had passed, 11 of his kids and grandkids built mansions in Manhattan. 11 of those Manhattan mansions no longer exist today. They squandered the money. They weren't investing the money. They were just spending the money. You got to be in the game. You got to be playing the game. Do what the Rockefellers did. They were out there playing the game every single day. They did not just stop and say, oh, I've made it here, I'm done. No, they kept learning and playing the game of real estate. So get in the game is my biggest push for people.
Cool. Get in the game. I like it. And I think one of the other things you said, but you didn't say it in the context I'm going to mention it. Why get in the game? I think the biggest thing is to know what your why is. And I know we talk a lot of mindset, and you really need to know what your why is to get in any game, but especially real estate. So if you want to do this, is it because you want to set up a nonprofit? Is it because you want to help a community? Is it because you want to travel the world? Is it because you want to do like I did, a few years ago, jump on my sailboat and disappear for 10 years? Or what is that why? You want to see the kids going through college. Why is knowing your why is one of the biggest things. What would you say to that?
Yeah. Like the why, it's something that some people just kind of skim over. They're like, oh, I don't need that, mindset stuff. Here's the thing, like going back to the Vanderbilts versus the Rockefellers. Did you know that the Rockefellers, they have a family constitution that describes their why?
Nice.
They go on family retreats every single year, and they pass off the why from generation to generation by verbal. Okay. So like the why is the glue that's going to keep us to the mission, even when days are tough. Because there's going to be plenty of tough days. I don't care which business you choose. I don't care which job you're in. There's going to be plenty of tough days that are out there. And if you don't have that deep down core, kick in the butt, like I'm going to do this for this cause, I don't know, you can get lost. I remember when I went through a real tough patch. I got into a development project I never should have. I got overly excited and jumped into this huge project. And the guy that was running the project, he ended up jumping ship on it. And it sent the whole thing downhill. I tried my best to save it. I moved there. I took it over. I got it to the finish line, but it was just too late. We had so much interest accrued at the bank and whatnot. So we lost money. I ended up going through bankruptcy. Terrible, terrible thing. I never want that to happen to anybody. And the one thing during that whole time, I would not cut this. And my bookkeeper kept coming to me saying, hey, you got this charitable donation that goes to this one group. We should probably cut this. And I kept saying, no, we're not cutting that. We're not cutting that. And I remember within 2 weeks of bankruptcy, that question came up again. And I said, no, we're not cutting that. And it forced me. It's like, no, because I know how much that family depends on it. I know how much those kids depend on it. I'm going to go make this happen. I'm not going to feel sorry. Like I worked harder. And we ended up working so hard. That's where we ended up winning some of those awards that you mentioned, because we just kicked it into high gear because we had this purpose. We had this why, we had this push of something we wanted to go after. And that push is what all of us need in our life. If we're just going through on cruise control, we'll never achieve greatness. It just doesn't happen. But if we've got that push and that drive, like for me, that was my why at the time. Like I knew what I was focused for. I knew why I wanted to go out and why we brought it to 10 million in sales so fast. I mean, we literally did that 10 million in 18 months. It was just because we had a why. If you don't have a why, you're not going to get it. There's no way.
So you, like most of us, have actually had your ups and downs in this business.
Yeah. I would be very leery if someone said I have a perfect track record, because either they're kind of going on cruise control and not taking any risk whatsoever, which could happen.
Yeah.
But even Warren Buffett has had some ups and downs, and Warren Buffett is considered like the gold standard as an investor, but he's learned his lessons. But he quickly, like I'm reading through his business partner's book right now, Poor Charlie's Almanac, great book. But in the book, he talks about their ups and their downs, but they quickly learn from their downs and they just keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. The person that says, I've never, ever. Well, when I was sailing, and I tens of thousands of miles sailing over, 10, 12 years. One of the things that I remember, it was kind of the funniest thing that somebody ever said to me. It says, when they refer to it as sticking it, that means running aground. And they said a sailor he's either stuck it or will stick it. There's no other time. And I was thinking early in my sailing career, and I did races and all kinds of other stuff. I'm going, it'll never happen. And one night it actually did happen. It happened in the harbor in San Diego, coming in about 4:00 in the morning, completely tired and everything else. And I saw a red light, and I thought it was a channel marker, and it actually turned out to be a red traffic light. And I was on the wrong side of it, and I went into some shallow grunge. I mean, I was going slow, so I pulled it right back out. But the thing that came to me right then was not other than, oh crap, I just ran aground. It was that saying, you've either stuck it or you're gonna stick it. That's it. So yeah. I get some fun ones.
Now I know that term. Okay, I stuck it once too, Michael. I stuck it once too.
Yeah.
It was a sandy bottom out here in the ocean behind our house, but nothing happened. But I stuck it. So
it's gonna happen. Challenges happen. That's how we end up learning. So, okay, I'm gonna turn to a more business. We can call it serious, but I value your opinion, because we have these conversations on a regular basis. But I value your opinion in the market. And yes, we're recording this now, but this actually might be, something that we can all reflect back on later, just like, 2007, 2008 timeframe. But what you're seeing in the market today, compared to, we dealt with COVID, we're still on the tail end of COVID, the craziness that's happened, like we all kind of expected at first the market would crash, but it did completely the opposite. But now we're starting to see some of the effects of COVID and kind of where it's going. So, market, yesterday, today, and future market, kind of give me your snapshot of that.
Sure. So geographically, it's going to vary like it always does. I mean, even if you go back to the last crash, the great crash, the 2007 through 2012 era for most of the country, there were some markets that were unfazed, like strangely enough, like Philly. Philly was pretty flat the whole time. There were areas of Texas that actually went up in value during the last crash. And so geographically, it's going to be different. So whoever is listening to this, like if you're saying, well, gosh, not my market. Well, I'm going to speak kind of globally right now. The government has been printing money since 2008. They have been injecting money into the system. They've been buying treasuries and all kinds of stuff with that money, but they've been injecting money. So imagine an airplane that basically takes off, but then never has to land for gas. It just flies around constantly. That has been the market. The market has been pumped up for all this time. Well, the Fed announced, because of everything that's going on right now, inflation, everything else, they have to stop that program. They're stopping it. And it's kind of an abrupt halt. I mean, maybe it didn't seem that way in the news because it was kind of slid in there and there's so much other world drama going on right now that no one noticed it, but it's a big deal. They've been printing money for over a decade, and now they're going to stop printing money. Oh, by the way, on top of it, we're going to crank the interest rate up 7 times in 1 year. 7 times in 1 year. I remember one of the very first loans I took out for a property, I paid 7.25% interest. And that was right after the last time that the Fed decided to crank up interest rates 7 or more times in a really short window of time. So the people now that are used to paying like 3 or 4% interest and like life is good because everything's almost free. I mean, that's really, really cheap. When interest rates double and they get to 7 or they even get to 8, and I know there's going to be people saying, oh, that'll never happen, Nate. Look at the 80s. Just Google search 1984 through 1989. I mean, you lived it.
Yep.
The 80s, we saw the biggest, we saw the S&L crisis. Interest rates went through the roof. Well, it can happen really fast. And when you start to pull levers like that, every time the government does, there is a change in the marketplace. So what's going to come? You know what? If I knew that answer, that'd be like crystal ball talk. I would probably make hundreds of millions, maybe $1 billion on it. What I suspect is going to happen, though, is going to slow stuff down. Will stuff start to come crashing in the weaker markets that have just been like ran up way too fast, where the wages cannot support that growth? Yeah, they're going to crash. They're going to come down. How much will they come down? I don't know. It could be as much as 50%. Could see more. Remember last time around, Las Vegas went down by more than 50%. Phoenix, Arizona, Cape Coral, Florida, there were certain markets in the country that just got hammered. And then there were certain markets that did just fine. So geographically, it'll be different, but I think as a whole, we're going to see some subsiding in the marketplace.
Well, and that geographic thing you're talking about, it's also geographically the areas that went up single digits instead of double digits. They'll probably see, they'll see less of a decline because those are the areas that weren't overinflated in the first place. Now, that may be kind of a rule of thumb, not a given, but I do agree with you on that. I'm definitely, and I'm already seeing that in certain areas. I'm seeing the heavy hit areas with inflation or, huge numbers going up. I'm starting to see those come down. So
if there's good economics, it can support price lifting, but that means like jobs have to be coming in, wages have to be going up. The economics of this last 18 months or so has been artificial. It's been printed money, stimulus. That's not something sustainable that can handle a 20% year over year real estate price increase.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. So just kind of off topic here. If I was to ask you like one thing that's true and dear to your heart, real estate, family, combination, playtime, anything else, I mean, what would be, the one thing that's kind of true to your heart that you'd like to share either personally or as guidance or a lesson learned or something? It's kind of a strange question, but I figured I'd throw it out there.
Sure. You're going to get me preaching, Michael. Are you sure
you're
opening the store? It's funny. I've got 2 books on my desk, and one of them is the Bible. It's just near and dear to me. Like it's where I spend a lot of time. And I've got this other one, the 300 ways to buy and sell or exchange real estate, because there's always more ways to do deals. But like that's kind of my number one focus is God, kind of it is. And then number 2 would be my family. Number 3 is the business. And I live them in that order. Like I don't want to compromise on that end of things.
Yeah. Well, and I know the type of guy you are, and it's doing quite well for you. So I'm glad to know you.
Thank you.
Yeah. You've got a good team together. So when I was going, when I was talking about why teach, and you talked about, because others did the same for you, and also that, it's hard for you to do everything. One thing we didn't talk about is that, Home Invest, Social Media Blueprint, the things that you do, you have, one, you've networked with some great people for, business on the investor side. You've got teams in place to help with the investor side, but with also the students. I mean, you've really put together a great team, great network of people. What would you say for somebody that is like, coming into this and they may not even know that that's what they need? I understand the importance of it, but, team networking, support, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely the network and the support around them, like get good guidance somewhere. If I were to do it all over again, I'd go find a good mentor right away. Someone that's already walked the path that I wanted to walk, and they were operating at an integrity level that I could align with. If I found those 2 things, then I would figure it out. Like most of the mentors, especially early on that I signed up with, so to speak, I didn't have enough funds to do their price points of their programs, but I figured it out. I did it anyways, and I always ended up making a huge return on the back end of that. So that's what I would do. If someone's listening right now and they're like, gosh, I can't do that at all, then take the free knowledge and put it into action. Make money off of it. But you have to commit. You're going to do it one way or another. It's going to be harder. You're going to bump into brick walls more often without having guidance. but one way or another, you just got to do it. You got to do it to put yourself in a position where you can take off.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's kind of where I was going, because I tell you what, I've had in the last, since I got back, probably early, I guess it was mid 2000s. And I decided that I wanted to really get back involved in real estate again. And things have changed since, I was really heavy in it back in 1997 when I started off as an investor, and then I got licensed. Coming back into it again, I knew that the fundamentals were the same, but I wanted to do it differently. And I reached out. I ended up with 3 great coaches and mentors. You're one of them. And part of what I've learned was the fact that, one, you don't have to do it all alone. 2, learn through somebody else's knowledge, including trial and error. And 3, by doing that, not that I believe in shortcuts, but it truly is a shortcut to get somewhere. You call it compression. It's truly a shortcut to get from one point to another quicker by learning through somebody else, instead of going through, a longer duration of school of hard knocks to get there on your own. So I'm a true believer in that. And I do believe that I've been able to compress things already, because in 12, 14, 18 months, whatever I've been doing this now, I came back out of, playing around to, rocking and rolling again. And I love it. So it's a great thing to have on your side, is great teams, mentors. And you can start with, there's programs out there that'll get you started, but grow into getting somebody like Nate on your side to kind of get you to that next level. And I love working with you.
Thank you, Michael. And let me address also the folks that are like, they just want to invest passively. Mm-hmm. Like, what I would do if I was going to do it from the beginning is I would find someone just like you, like you've got you're sitting in a almost 100 unit project right now that you're just finishing up. Find someone that's already doing it. Don't try to go and reinvent the wheel by yourself alone. So if you're in the position where you're just passively investing, find someone like Michael that's already doing it. It's going to be the fastest way to getting replicatable results that are successful, because someone's already in it. It's doing it at a good level. Yeah.
I know. I agree. And you can learn from them. And if you can find out something that you can bring to the table, there's possibility of partnerships as well. So, but you have to go out there and you have to find it. It's not going to come find you.
Well said, man.
Yeah. All right. I got one more question for you as we kind of wind down here a little bit. Nate, we hope that you don't go anywhere soon, but when that day comes that you're no longer with us on this earth and you've ventured off into the worlds beyond, what is the legacy or meaning or impact that you want to leave behind on this world? What is it you want everybody to know after you've gone?
Yeah, well, the legacy that is really what I'm building right now. It's Home Invest Kids. And then with my family, it's what we've got written. Some people would call it daily devotions, daily direction, life constitution. That's the document right there. And there's really a few really big things. It's number 1, serve other people. Make sure you're not just living a selfish life. It's a very lonely, I've worked with so many of those investors that have come in and they've jointly funded projects with me, that they're divorced. They live for work nonstop. They don't have a lot of joy and fulfillment outside of just money. And it seems to be very lonely to me. I wouldn't do that. I would live this life to serve. You get way more satisfaction out of it. Second one is, if you do believe in God, make sure you're true to your creator. Do as you're supposed to do, live as you're supposed to live. That's the 2 messages that I would like to send to people as legacy for me.
Awesome. Well, thank you. For anybody that wants to reach out to you, or you have anything that you would like to share with them as far as contact or any, I don't know, you got anything you want to throw out there?
Yeah. So we've compressed what we've been doing for the last decade. We've compressed it, and I've got a training that walks through how to go out and find deals off market in today's environment. And we all know it's super crazy out there. It's hard to get deals and all that kind of stuff, but we've really broken it down on how to find the off market stuff. So if you want to go after realtor stuff, it's not us. If you want to go after off market stuff, we've cracked the code, and it's literally available for anybody that has a smartphone. And so to get that, you go to allaccessrei.com/start. allaccessrei.com/start. There's a video training right there. You just enter in your information and it'll pop you right to the video training, and rock on. Go out there and do something good with it.
Cool. And if they want to reach out to you, can they do that through there? Should they do it through me? You have another means?
Yeah. So on that same page, it'll send you an email that is like a confirmation email with the training, just in case you can't watch it on the page. And then that's our email inbox. It's me and one other person on the team that checks it. So you could reply to that email and we're in direct contact right from there.
Awesome. And for the listeners and viewers, because we do this in audio and video, we will post that in the show notes. So you don't have to worry about it if you didn't write it all down. We'll get it to you. So Nate, I gotta say, one, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule, because I know how busy you are. I truly appreciate it. But I thought it was, the gifts that you have and the knowledge that you have is definitely worth sharing to other people. And I really appreciate you taking the time and coming out and doing that.
Thank you, Michael.
Yeah.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah, no problem. So for those of you who are listening and or viewing, thank you very much again for, making Deal or No Deal multifamily real estate investing part of what you listen to or watch, and keep an eye out for future episodes. And in the meantime, Nate, thank you very much. And thank you to all of our fans out there. You all have a great day.